Welcome to the Glenn Mercer Show. You could find us across all your favorite podcast platforms. You could find us on YouTube, and please remember to subscribe. You could find us at realmeneatplants.com. This show is brought to you by First Seed Foods. Healthy, organic Indian food without the butter, oil, or ghee. I love Indian food, but I don't like the oil that I get when I eat Indian food in Indian restaurants. So this is the solution. First Seed Foods. You order online, it comes to your door frozen, and you get $10 off your first order when you put in Glenn10 as the coupon code. Okay, my guest today is Meenakshi Angel Honig. She comes to us from the island of Maui. She is an internationally acclaimed yoga instructor. She is an animal rights advocate, a mind, body, spirit, and wellness consultant and expert. And to top it off, she is a licensed minister. She's also the author of a book called The Solution. Angel, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Glenn. Very happy to be here. I'm always grateful for the opportunity to shine the light of awareness on the benefits of a vegan diet and lifestyle.
Well, that's what your book is all about, all the countless reasons why people should go vegan. How long ago did you go vegan?
Well, I became a vegetarian when I was 11, and that was just backing up before the day we had computers and everybody knew everything about everything via computer instantly. Those were the days when we had to actually uh, have a library card and walk to the library to find out even what a vegetarian was. And I became the first vegetarian I ever met was myself.
Well, where did
So
where
I've been
did you grow up?
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Not often compared to Maui, actually.
Yeah, a big leap up, I would say.
Yes.
Deeply grateful to be here on Maui.
So at
Um,
what age did you move to Maui?
I moved to Maui about 33 years ago. Love Maui, deeply grateful to be here. So I became a vegetarian at 11, but then, like many people, I was under the false impression that dairy products did not hurt the cow. I thought that cows just lovingly gave their milk to people who named them and sang to them, and they grazed freely and they were happy to give their excess milk. So I was not a vegan until 1987 when John Robbins' Pulitzer Prize nominated book called Diet for a New America was released. And a friend of mine read that book, and he was so deeply touched by it, he created a one-page summary, a handout that summarized the key points in John Robbins' book, Diet for a New America. And I read that one-page summary, and it was the first time I ever realized the horrific suffering that animals have to endure for us to have milk. And I instantly became a vegan. And that was in 1987. So I've been a vegan for over 30 years now. And the last 8 years, I've been unprocessed vegan, which is a whole nother story. And then for the last 6 weeks, I've been eating only raw vegan.
Whoa,
Because,
whoa, we have breaking news.
right.
You've just become a raw vegan.
Well, I would not say exclusively raw, but
Okay.
I like to utilize the summers, Glenn, to eat raw foods every summer because the weather is really good and supportive of it. I must say that in wintertime, when it gets colder and rainier, and I feel like having some hot soup or having some rice and beans, so I'm not exclusively raw, but in the summertime, I love to seize that opportunity because raw food is so vital and beautiful and alive, and it makes us feel so great. So I think in the summertime, it's a wonderful option, and to have a high raw vegan diet throughout the year. But for me, not necessarily exclusively raw, although I respect those who are exclusively raw.
Right. Now, the winters were rougher in Pittsburgh than Maui. You
You
have to admit
said
that.
definitely rougher, yes.
But even on Maui, in the winter, you want some cooked food.
Oh, yes. Many people think that Maui is summer all year round. No, it is not, especially if you're living in Haiku, where it gets rainy and cold and muddy. And there are those nights where you just want to have some hot soup and it's comforting and it feels right. So I feel that we need to, as long as it's cruelty-free, meaning vegan, I think we also have to adapt it to our circumstances and to our constitution. So I'm the type of person that gets cold easily. And so for me, having warm food is better for my constitution at times. And so my bottom line here, as long as it's vegan and cruelty-free, we can be a little bit adaptive and flexible to what brings harmony and peace and well-being to our unique natures.
Now, Angel, you currently teach at the Fairmount Kealani on Maui, right? You've been doing that
I
for
do.
8 years.
For the
And
past 8 years.
so, is it that they have yoga courses available for the people who are staying there?
Yes, it is. We have a whole fitness program, and I get to teach on a beautiful green lawn overlooking the ocean with birds and trees and butterflies and a beautiful breeze. And it's just pure bliss. I love teaching at the Fairmont Kealani, which is a five-star resort. And we have a schedule of classes for all the guests who come there from all over the world. So I used to teach on international teaching tours where I went all over the world, but now the whole world is coming to me
Coming
on
to you
Maui.
as that's the way it should be. I think it's much better that way.
I
It's less
prefer it.
tiring than going all over the world. Now, on your website, angelyoga.com, there are videos of you. There's such beautiful videos. You're so athletic as you do this yoga. You people have to go. You must go to this website, angelyoga.com, and you'll be amazed by the yoga performances, I feel like saying, of Angel. Did you, when you started practicing yoga, were you this athletic or did you become more athletic over time?
Well, I had a dance background in ballet and modern dance.
It
And
shows in your yoga.
Thank you. Yeah, it's what I call transferable skills. I think that we're all souls on a long journey, and everything we do helps everything we do moving
Uh-huh.
forward, that we can draw from the skills of our. So I had a dance background, and I was able to bring those skills to my yoga practice. I also teach a Pilates yoga fusion, and I bring it to that platform as well. So I'm deeply grateful for my dance background. It has helped me in every aspect of life.
See, now I have trouble doing yoga because I'm just not flexible. I just,
Well, that's precisely what it's for, Glenn.
yeah.
It's for to improve our flexibility. So, exercise physiologists agree that in order to have a balanced fitness routine, we need four components: cardiovascular, muscle toning, flexibility, and balance. So, yoga is exquisite in the flexibility piece, and it rounds out your whole fitness routine. And people think, oh, I can't do yoga because I'm not flexible, but that's what it is for. It's to help you become more flexible. And it's simple cause and effect. If you do the stretches, you will get more flexible. And I have seen that in teaching yoga for the past 52 consecutive years. I have seen firsthand, up close and personal, the evidence of how responsive the human body is. And through consistent, gentle practice, we can most definitely increase our range of motion.
Well, maybe I'll just have to go to Maui one day and
Yes,
try to prove to you that not everyone could become flexible.
I promise you, you can. I
You know,
promise
I
you,
was
you
once
can.
in a theater school in my 20s because I was an aspiring playwright. And unfortunately, I had to take every class, so that meant I had to take the singing class. And I explained to the woman that I just can't carry a tune, and she said everybody can carry a tune. And that was a very important point that she said very often, everybody can carry a tune. And then I sang for her, and ever since then she's been saying everybody except Glenn can carry a tune. So,
Well,
you
I
know,
can tell you that in my 52 years, I have had not one exception to the rule that if you do these practices, you will increase your range of motion. And I have taught yoga in multiple sclerosis societies, to people in
wow.
wheelchairs. I have taught yoga to children, to seniors, to maximum security prisons, to five-star resorts, to hospitals, to you name it. And I can tell you in every single sector of life. If you, it's simple cause and effect. If you do the cause, you will get the effect. It's just a
All
matter of
right.
time, consistency, and correct practice without strain.
Now, the prisons, that's interesting. Where did you teach yoga in a prison?
Yeah, I was asked to teach yoga in a maximum security prison when I was living in the Pacific Northwest. And I had to have my thumbprints taken and I had to be let in by guards and they locked the door behind you. And yeah, it was quite an experience. But I did my best to just see the divine in everyone. And yes, they made some serious mistakes in their lives, but I have compassion for them because we're all products of our conditioning and our upbringing and our soul's evolution. And so I think we all have to have compassion for one another and meet each other where we're at and then uplift each other. Our purpose here on Earth, from my perspective, is to support and uplift our co-travelers on the journey of evolution.
All right. Well, your book, The Solution, uh, goes over many, many, many excellent reasons why we need a vegan transformation of the world. Would you like to discuss some of the first ones that come to your mind about why people need to make this transformation?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Glenn. So, my book entitled The Solution: 10 Compelling Reasons to Choose a Plant-Based Diet and Lifestyle, the Why and the How. Um, I feel that when we provide people with information and inspiration, it leads to transformation. And that is what I'm here to do. And that's the purpose of this book, The Solution. So, in this book, I give 10 compelling reasons to choose a plant-based diet, and then a step-by-step transition of how you can transition to this diet and lifestyle. And then I also include some of my signature recipes. And, people just love those recipes. I get emails all the time about people stop buying chocolate because I showed them how to make their own raw vegan chocolate at home. And people send me emails of, oh, this is the best dressing I've ever tasted. And it would be so easy for me to go vegan if I had this dressing every day, etc. So I think the recipes, the main thing, I will go through my 10 compelling reasons. The main thing I want to impart is that switching to this from the sad diet to the glad diet, the sad diet meaning the standard American diet, and the glad diet meaning the global ahimsa, which is a Sanskrit word meaning non-injury, non-violence, non-harm, loving diet, sad to glad. It's not about giving up or sacrificing, Glenn. The only thing we're giving up is our aches and our pains and our cognitive dissonance, and we're giving up our cancer and our heart disease, and we're giving up our cruelty to animals, and we're giving up devastation to the environment, we're giving up pollution, we're giving up all the negative things in favor of receiving and sharing all the positive things. So there's a joyfulness to veganism, is what I want to impart. It's not like a sacrifice or a deprivation. It's a higher choice that leads to well-being physically, mentally, more clarity, emotionally. You're in congruence with your spiritual alignment because we're all by nature compassionate. And so when we make dietary choices that are kind to the animals, to the environment, to our own health, and to future generations, we're living in congruence and coherence with our true nature. So spiritually, it's uplifting. So I just want to impart to people across the board, this is not a deprivation. This is a joy and a higher choice that's going to make you and your loved ones and our planet feel better on every level. So my first compelling reason for choosing a plant-based diet, first and foremost, is animal welfare. I am an ethical vegan, and the reason I became a vegetarian at age 11 is because of compassion for animals. Now, I'm sorry that I have to go into some of these painful details, Glenn, but this is what people have to be informed about, because I believe that when people are informed, they will make more compassionate choices. So it all begins with awareness. We need to be aware that over 80 billion land animals and over 1.5 trillion marine animals or sea creatures are tortured and killed for meat, dairy, fish, poultry, and eggs every year. Now, this is a global atrocity that has been normalized. And although it's understandable because we've been programmed to eat this way since infancy, from our parents, from our relatives, from the media, from the clergy, from all forms of media, the movies, the magazines, everything, we've been conditioned to think this is normal, but this is abnormal. And I'm here on the Wake Up Committee to wake up from what Dr. Will Tuttle refers to as a cultural trance. So this cultural trance is that most people are just going along to get along. They want to fit in, they want to belong. They're going along with what the same foods and traditions they've been raised with without questioning, what am I doing here? So I'd like to invite everyone to question this. If you love your dog and you love your cat and you love your parakeet or your guinea pig or whatever your companion animal is, cows, sheep, goats, chicken, fish, turkeys, etc., all of these animals have essentially the same nervous system that we have, meaning that they can feel pain and suffering and fear and joy and hope, the same things we feel. So in order to eat animals, we have to realize that every dollar we spend is a vote. It's a vote for cruelty or loving kindness. It's a vote for devastation or sustainability. It's a vote for disease or for health. So it begins with awareness that, as Paul McCartney said, if slaughterhouses had glass walls, everybody would be a vegetarian or a vegan. So once we realize the horrific suffering that animals are forced to endure, and I need to emphasize the point, Glenn, that 99% of meat comes from factory farms, which are literally concentration camps for animals. And then the sea, where they have these trolleys under the sea to, industrial fishing, is just causing ocean devastation and destroying our coral reefs and all the homeostasis and natural balance of the ocean upon which we all depend. And so this horrific violence and domination that's taking place globally. We need to wake up from that. As Jesus said, Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. People do not realize what they are doing. And I'm here to shine the light of awareness on this, not to make anyone wrong, bad, feel guilty, or anything like that, but to bring awareness so that we can make more compassionate choices. Because I believe that everyone is compassionate by nature, and that when we understand this more fully, then we help to make new choices that are kinder to the animals. Dr. Martin Luther King said, to ignore evil is to be an accomplice to it. Leonardo da Vinci said, a time will come when men such as I will look upon the murder of animals as we now look on the murder of men. And my intention is to bring that time to now, to bring the awareness that your companion animals that you love, that you sleep with, that are part of your family, these animals have the same feelings as cows, chickens, pigs, like that. And so there's a cognitive dissonance that takes place, like we love these animals, but we torture these animals. No, we have to wake up from that and realize that the same love you have for your pet is the love that I have for all animals. They're all equal, they all have the same nervous system. And when these animals go to slaughterhouses and they're raised in the most horrific, cruel conditions, they see, they smell, they hear, they feel terror, misery, fear, anger, resentment, helplessness. These animals feel that way just the way we would. And then when they're slaughtered in the most cruel ways, they release adrenaline and cortisol and the biochemistry of terror and misery. So when we eat those foods, Glenn, we are eating the biochemistry of terror and misery. Is it any mystery that 1 out of 4 Americans are on psychiatric drugs? Is it any mystery that people feel anxiety and depression? Is there any connection between ingesting misery and feeling miserable, ingesting terror and having anxiety and depression? We need to wake up and connect these dots and see the ramifications of our dietary choices and how they're affecting every aspect of life, and therefore make more compassionate choices. So my first and foremost reason is animal welfare. And the last thing I want to say on this, I could spend the whole time talking about just this one point, but the idea here is that this consciousness of violence and domination can be replaced with ahimsa, which is a Sanskrit word meaning non-injury, non-harm, non-violence. It means to do our best not to cause harm, violence, and injury in our thoughts, words, and actions. And when we live in alignment with that and we make kinder choices, then everything in life gets better, not only for us, but for our loved ones, for the animals, for the environment, and for future generations.
Well, that was all beautifully said. You mentioned factory farms along the way, and some people have an answer to that. They say, "Oh, yes, I abhor the factory farms. That's why I only eat organic grass-fed meat." What do you say to those people?
Well, first of all, 99% of meat comes from factory farms. So the 1% or less that comes from so-called organic factory farms, first of all, it's not
Organic
free
grass-fed,
range. Yeah, free range.
free range.
First of all, it's still based on violence and domination. They're, commodities that are breeded to be slaughtered and killed. Um, and the so-called organic, when it comes to dairy, like organic milk and things like that, it's actually worse. And I'll tell you why. When dairy cows in so-called organic, free range, are milked with these very painful electric machines, like robots, 2 or 3 times per day, they get cuts and scrapes and sores and everything. But because they want to make more money on the quote, the organic label, they cannot be treated with antibiotics because then it wouldn't be organic. And so these animals who have the same feelings as we have to suffer through all that being untreated by antibiotics or whatever. So it's even more painful and more cruel. So this whole organic thing, and it's not even monitored. There's no real industry standard for it. So that's just a way of trying to appease people's guilt, to have them pay more and think that they're getting a more compassionate product. And it may be in some ways, but it still has all the violence and domination and pain and misery that the so-called factory farms. It may be slightly better, but it does not justify taking the life of an animal, which is totally unnecessary under any conditions, because the good Lord has given us every single nutrient we need from the plant kingdom. So we can live healthy, thriving lives without causing horrific suffering to any animal. And by animal, I want to clarify that humans are classified as animals, and these non-human animals were all classified as animals. So we have to treat others the way we would want to be treated. Would you want to be so-called organic, grass-fed, and then slaughtered and killed and eaten? Or would you rather be a sovereign, free animal to live your life the way nature intended you, just like you and I want to do? Abraham Lincoln said, "Those who deny freedom to others do not deserve freedom for themselves." So if you want to be free, why do you want to enslave these animals, even if it's so-called um, organic or grass-fed?
Right. And of course, they all get killed in the same slaughterhouses.
Yes, good point, Glenn. Yes.
The other thing is from a climate and environmental standpoint, people think, oh, those factory farms are environmental nightmares. And they are. It's hard to think of anything more destructive than a factory farm to the environment. But perhaps the grass fed cows do more harm because we chop down the forests first to give them the land. And if, as you said, since 99% of the meat that people eat is from factory farms, if everybody ate only organic grass fed farms, there would be no land left on planet Earth. So it's just not a sustainable solution.
Yeah, I agree with you 1000% on that, Glenn. And just to elaborate on your point, 80% of deforestation is attributable to the meat, dairy, and egg industries. 91% of destruction of the Amazon forests is result of animal agriculture, because what happens is we cut down these trees for the purpose of grazing, as you said, for this free range quote, cattle. Plus, that land is used to grow crops to feed these imprisoned animals. And so we're devastating the lungs of our planet because trees, as we all know, absorb carbon dioxide and they give off oxygen. So they're like the lungs of our planet. And when we cut down these trees, then when trees are gone, life as we know it on planet Earth is gone because we cannot breathe without them. And so it causes horrific suffering in terms of deforestation. To your point, I'm just elaborating on that. And also, this deforestation causes the extinction of 200 species per day due to deforestation, loss of habitat, and pollution. And climate scientists have been saying they haven't seen anything like this for over 65 million years since the disappearance of dinosaurs, this level of species extinction due to this rampant deforestation that is 80%, if not higher, due to animal agriculture. And this whole idea of using the word animal agriculture, to me, agriculture or factory farms means like growing, but this is not growing. This is destruction. This is
Yeah.
slaughter. This is
Why,
disease.
why do we call people farmers who cram 30,000 chickens in a shed? I've never understood what that has to do with farming.
Well, it's a total misnomer. And I think part of this awareness is to rename these things to what they are. These so-called factory farms are death camps. They are slaughter camps. They are disease-ridden concentration camps for animals. And I think it's time we name it what it is, because in so doing, we heighten people's awareness because so much of this is hidden from the people, and they're fed all these erroneous imagery like a cow grazing on a beautiful grassy field, having a loving life. And it's not like that at all. 99% of meat, as I mentioned earlier, comes from factory farms where these cows are confined, brutally dehorned, raped on what the industry literally calls a rape rack through a violent, perverse form of artificial insemination. These cows are milked with painful machines. Their babies that they've carried for 9 months, just like we do, are ripped away from them at birth. And so this is all like hidden from us, but I think it's important that we pull the curtain and reveal this so people realize what's really taking place here, Glenn, because this is the boomerang effect. And what I want to explain here clearly to everyone is as you sow, so shall you reap. We enslave these animals. Modern day slavery is higher than it's ever been before. We rape these animals on what the industry calls rape racks, and women are raped worldwide. We force feed these animals and we suffer from obesity. 3 out of 4 Americans is overweight. We tear their babies away from them and our families are ripped apart. We kill these animals and then it kills us through heart attacks and cancer, the number one and two causes of death. And when they do autopsies for heart attacks, they always pull out saturated fat from animal protein. They never pull out tofu, carrots, broccoli, or fruit. In other words, we're killing these animals and it is killing us. What goes around comes
You
around.
know, it seems so obvious to us, and yet I saw a report on network news in the past week about people, and they look like healthy young people. I think they were in their 30s or so, the ones who they showed on this segment, and they had gone on the carnivore diet,
Ugh,
and they were feeding their little babies on steaks, and you see little babies chewing into a bone, and it's just hard to know how to stop this foolishness. And
Well,
these
I'll tell
people
you
were
that.
saying, "Oh, I feel mental clarity now that I never felt before. Now that I'm eating meat and nothing but meat all day long." It's hard to believe that they'll be saying that in 10 years.
Mhm.
Uh, are you as astonished as I am by the persistence of the nonsense diets, the carnivore diet, the keto diet, the uh, whatever they call these meat heavy diets?
It's pure delusion, and I can unpack this. Meat is high cholesterol and high saturated fat. The number one cause of death in this country is heart disease. Heart disease occurs from clogging the arteries to the heart. And the GLAD diet, meaning the global loving ahimsa diet, is zero cholesterol and low in fat. So when you eat a plant-based diet, you significantly reduce your risk of heart attack and cancer. 1 out of 4 Americans die of heart disease. 33% of people worldwide die of heart disease, and it's all preventable. And this was proven with the groundbreaking work of Dr. Dean Ornish, who wrote the New York Times bestselling book, Reversing Heart Disease. And he definitively showed scientifically how we can reverse heart disease through 4 components: low-fat plant-based diet, yoga, meditation, and group support. This is a scientific, peer-reviewed study. They've rewritten medical textbooks based on this research. Now, Blue Cross and Blue Shield cover the Dean Ornish program because it's cheaper than a triple bypass surgery and lasts longer and is less invasive. And so the whole idea here is these people who think that eating all meat that has no fiber, that's high in cholesterol and high in fat, that clogs the arteries of the heart, that contributes to the number one cause of death in this country is pure delusion. And I think the only way that we can counteract delusion is with truth. So that's why I'm here on this podcast today, to share a higher truth, to shine the light of awareness on these delusions, to provide people with scientific evidence of how the human body actually works. And not only that, when you clog the arteries to the heart so it doesn't get the free blood flow, that also will cut off the blood flow to the other organs in the body, which leads to, for example, sexual malfunction. Because every aspect of your body, if it's not getting the free flow of nutrients to the heart, it affects negatively, impact all the organs of the body. So it's going to be showing up in all kinds of ways in their life. Plus, they're being agents of horrific cruelty. Plus, they're contributing to things like starvation, to water shortage, to pollution, to modern day slavery. They're contributing by making that choice to all these other negative impacts, which, as we all know, as you sow, so shall you reap. What goes around comes around. It's cause and effect. Eventually, that maladaptive cruel choice is going to bring negative results to them. And this is not as a punishment, it's as a wake-up call, is to show us that our thoughts, words, and actions matter. And when we violate living in alignment with loving kindness, with compassion, with kindness, it's going to bring all kinds of untold destruction, not for the purpose of punishment, but the purpose of education, to learn, to grow, to evolve. So eventually, I think there's 2 types of people on planet Earth: pre-vegans and pro-vegans. So the pre-vegans are going to wake up from their gruesome mistakes, and they're eventually going to become pro-vegans and realize that the kind choice is the best choice.
All right. Now we've only done compelling reason number one. So what's compelling reason number two?
Compelling reason number two is put an end to starvation. So, Glenn, it takes up to 16 pounds of grain to make 1 pound of meat. If that 16 pounds of grain went directly to the people, there would be no starvation worldwide. John Robbins, in his Pulitzer Prize nominated book entitled Diet for a New America, stated if Americans would cut down their consumption of 10%, world starvation could end today. So let's look at this for a minute. The United Nations has stated that 21,000 people die of starvation or starvation-related diseases such as malnutrition every day. That means every 4 seconds, someone dies of starvation unnecessarily. So just imagine being a mother holding a baby in your arms. We're all either mothers or have a mother, so we can all relate to this. You're holding a baby in your arms and they are dying in your arms because from starvation. Just think of that suffering and think about cutting down your consumption of meat by 10%. That means instead of going to McDonald's 10 times a week, you go 9 times a week with
Oh,
that
we can
much
do
of it.
better than that. Let's
Way
not set
better
the
than that.
let's not set the bar that low, Angel, please.
No, but I'm saying that even with that much of a change, we could end starvation worldwide according to this um, cutting down by 10%. That number was also corroborated by Robert, is it Oppenhopper? What's his name? Doctor?
Oppenheimer?
Yeah, he also
Oh,
said,
Richard
yes,
Oppenlander, I think.
yes,
Yeah.
that's who I mean. He
Okay.
also gave the same figure of if meat were cut down by 10%. But of
Right.
course, we should cut it down by 100%.
Yes.
Absolutely.
We're not letting anybody off at 10%.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is here, even a step in the right direction is helpful because my wish would be for everyone to go vegan as of this very conversation, hook, line, and sinker. But not everyone's going to do that. So, what I want to say is at least take significant steps in that direction. In other words, it doesn't have to be a black or white issue. I would rather that people go from vegetarian to vegan, from vegan to healthy vegan, from vegan to vegan, effective vegan advocate. In other words, we might have to go in stages or we can go completely. But whatever method you choose, at least go in the right direction. Some progress is better than no progress.
All right. Now, what is compelling reason number three?
Okay, so compelling reason number three is water shortage. So 40% of the world is suffering from water shortage. It takes 2,500 gallons of water to make 1 pound of meat, whereas it takes 250 gallons of water to make a comparable amount of plant protein. So every time we choose the glad diet rather than the sad diet, we save hundreds of gallons of water. And in so doing, we can put an end to water shortage worldwide.
There we go. What is compelling reason number four?
Number four is deforestation, which I alluded to earlier.
Right.
That
And which which is sometimes a crime committed so that people can have organic grass-fed meat instead of factory farmed meat. So
correct. Good point. Very good point.
deforestation is one of the driving causes of the climate crisis.
Mhm.
So don't go for that free range meat.
Mm.
So but I cut you off. What else do you want to say about deforestation?
Oh, no, you're not cutting me off. That's a valuable point, and I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. That You may think you're doing a favor by having grass-fed, but the way you can replace that is with these delicious, nutritious, yummy bean burgers or falafel or all these non-meat delicious, many of which recipes are in my book, The Solution. But the idea here is you can make a healthier, happier, kinder choice that's not a deprivation, that makes you feel better and is going to make not take this toll on the environment, on the lungs of our planet. So
Um,
deforestation is number four, and as you alluded to, reversing the climate situation is number five. Now, I know that climate change is a very controversial issue, Glenn. There are some people who feel that climate change is the number one crisis that we need to address for the survival of planet Earth at this time. There are other people think that it's a hoax, and then there's all the shades in between. So I realize this is a controversial issue. Some people who think it's a hoax just think it's a way of government overreach, that they're just setting us up to deny us the freedom to be able to drive or to travel or to fly, to imprison us like we imprison the animals. Some people feel that way, and I understand their point of view. There's other people who feel that there are scientific evidence for devastation of our climate because of man-made choices or human-made choices. Um, so I will just focus on the environmental destruction part of it. I do realize this is a controversial issue, but from my understanding, there are three very potent, powerful greenhouse gases, which are carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide. And the combination of these potent greenhouse gases formulate a devastating combination that contributes to destabilization of our climate. Now, I'm not saying there aren't other factors, but I do believe that animal agriculture is um, according to a study that was commissioned by the World Bank, 51% of all greenhouse gas emissions comes from animal agriculture. So the reason for that is, as we've discussed, these trees are cut down for grazing and for growing crops to feed these imprisoned animals for meat, which, these trees would naturally be sequestering the carbon
right. And
dioxide.
if you factor in what they call carbon opportunity cost, how much more carbon we would sequester if we had the forests back that have been cut down for the grazing. It may well be that animal agriculture is responsible for upwards of 90% of greenhouse gases. So it's really the whole ball game. It's far, far more important. I mean, if tomorrow there was no more burning of fossil fuels, the climate would not cool down. The only thing that cools down the climate is if tomorrow we start to return the forests, um, and we rewild the grazing land. So, and of course, I write about this in my book, Food is Climate. But the Al Gores of the world just won't talk about that. They find it to be an inconvenient truth that the leading cause of climate change is animal agriculture. And I don't understand how anybody can be a climate denier at this point. You just have to watch the news. We have such violent storms that we've never had before. Just as scientists would have did predict, 20, 30, 40 years ago. We have the oceans rising. We have um, more violent hurricanes. We have more prolonged heat waves and heat domes. And we have wildfires. You had a terrible wildfire in Maui. Uh, what was it, 2 years ago?
Mhm.
Did you know
But
people impacted by that?
yeah. I think that the reason this is controversial, Glenn, and I think we have to tread lightly here, is a lot of people feel that there's weather warfare and that there's other like plasma wave technology that's being utilized to start
What kind of technology?
plasma wave technology, kind of like microwave technology that's being utilized as a kind of weapon to create certain situations for the purpose of domination. There's a lot of, I don't want to
I
get
never
into
heard
this too.
that theory before. I don't know what
Yeah,
that is.
well, I live right on Maui and I just listened to a whole documentary on it, 2 days ago. A very highly reputable scientists who are giving evidence-based information about the anomalies of the fire on Maui and also in LA and in Paradise, etc., that there could be other factors at play here. But without going into this, which I think might be a side tributary, I think it's better just to focus on the fact that animal agriculture has a devastating effect on our environment, on deforestation, on pollution, polluting our soil, ocean devastation. I think I will just stick to the negative impacts of animal agriculture, but also saying that my book, The Solution, is a book of hope. It's about how we can reverse all these problems that we're facing on planet Earth today by switching from the sad diet to the glad diet, the how and the why, and then giving the joyful options.
Okay, are we up to compelling reason number 6?
Yeah, number 6 is instead of contributing to the pollution, contribute to the solution. So in these factory farms, these imprisoned animals, concentration camps where 99% of meat comes from, the excrement from these animals is 20 times more than the entire human population combined. And these animals are routinely injected, sprayed, and fed hormones, antibiotics, pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, all kinds of toxic chemicals that all goes into their excrement, and it all goes untreated into our rivers, into our lakes, and eventually into our oceans and aquifers. Over 60% of our waters in this country are impaired, and 80% of that is attributable to the meat, dairy, and egg industry. So if you don't want to contribute to the pollution of our water, think about how much you love swimming in the ocean. Think about how much you love swimming in your lakes or your rivers, and to have that polluted by this toxic, cruel industry, when you could so easily switch over to these delicious, nutritious, yummy, colorful, living, beautiful, tasty, even gourmet food. It's like a no-brainer. Do you want to contribute to the solution or the pollution?
It seems to be a no-brainer to me, and yet I see these
No-brainer.
people feeding their babies steaks. I don't understand it. Compelling reason number
Well,
7.
I do understand it because it's the cultural conditioning. Like, for example, recently they had children in the White House and they had the speaker for the White House, and the children were asking questions to the speaker about the president of the United States. And so then the kid said, "What's the president's favorite food?" And the speaker representing the president said, "Steak." So it's no mystery why these kids get these ideas, but we need to, as grassroots, bring about a higher truth to counteract all this misinformation, all these misguided choices that just lead to disease, to chaos, to war, to devastation, to disease, all the problems that we're facing on planet Earth today.
All right, compelling reason number 7.
Number 7 is to increase energy. So both internal and external energy. It takes 11 times more fossil fuels to produce 1 pound of meat than it does comparable amount of plant food. So we can, by switching from the SAD diet to the GLAD diet, we can reduce our burning of fossil fuels and imports of oil, and we can increase renewable energy, such as wood and hydroelectric, by 120%.
All right. Compelling reason number 8.
Also, I want to add the
Oh,
internal thing about energy of, about reversing energy shortage is that it takes 8 hours to digest a meat meal and it takes 4 hours, excuse me,
have a glass of water there.
it takes 4 hours to digest, excuse me, what? It takes 4 hours to digest a vegetarian meal and even less for a vegan meal. So when you think of all the time wear and tear on our organs and systems, that takes energy. And as Tesla said, everything is energy, vibration, and frequency. So when we are utilizing more of our life force energy to digest food unnecessarily, if we switch from the SAD diet to the GLAD diet, we have more energy to pursue the things that we truly love.
All right. Compelling
Also,
reason number 9.
okay, number 9. This is vitally important, and a lot of people don't see this correlation or connect these dots. The increase of modern day slavery. So most people don't realize the connection between animal slavery, environmental slavery, human slavery, but I'd like to unpack that for a moment. Between 10 and 11,000 years ago, in the area where Iraq is today, was the first time that people in history, herdsmen and farmers, started to imprison animals, castrate and hobble and control them for the purpose of stealing their hide, their flesh, their secretions, and their labor, putting them to work by pulling, um, pulling like,
Plows.
what's that? Plows.
Plows.
Yes, things of that nature. Exactly. Thank you, Glenn. So when they started to do that, up until that point in history, Glenn, there was a kinship between human animals and non-human animals. People used to make totem poles that revered animals, and I revere animals. If you look
But
at,
you weren't alive at that time.
yeah, but what I'm saying is how we can all return to that reverence of animals. If you look at a bird flying, can we fly like a bird? They're miraculous. If you look at how, like a monkey can climb a tree, can we do that? If you look at how a spinner dolphin can jump and spin in the air and go under the water, can we do that? I
Well,
mean,
this is the same sense of awe and wonder that I get when I watch your yoga videos, because I can't do that.
thank you. Yeah, so I'm trying to fly like the birds and spin like the
Yeah,
dolphins in
you're
that.
just about able to do it.
Yeah, and so the idea here is that animals are so miraculous, and we all know that if you have an animal, or there's rescue animals, there's service animals, there's companion animals. I mean, even Glenn, even during times of war, they train pigeons to take notes to other places that help to save lives. I mean, animals are so amazing.
How
And
did the
so
pigeons do that? That's just amazing.
it is amazing, and they,
Did they even
some
have zip codes? I don't know how they
yes,
did that.
these animals, some of them got Nobel Peace Prizes because they actually, these animals that were trained to deliver messages that saved people's lives as part of intelligence, venture, yeah, intelligence missions is the word I'm looking for. Yeah, it's miraculous. Look it up. It's amazing what animals can do. So there was this kinship between human animals and non-human animals. But when people started to exploit animals, what happened was we had to shut down our innate compassion. As I've stated before, we're all compassionate by nature. So, in order to do that, we have to implement what's called cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is when we disconnect or try and rationalize or euphemize or somehow, through methods of detachment and delusion, we disconnect from our true nature. So, first of all, we had to do that, which dim down our intuition, our empathy, our what makes us human, our superpowers we had to dim down in order to do those cruel acts. And then what happened, Glenn, is when that became the new normal, it was not a big jump. Once you're tying and dominating and raping animals, etc., it's not a big jump to do that to humans, which led to domestic violence, which led to slavery, which leads to war. And so people don't really realize this trajectory. So, as Tolstoy said, as long as there are slaughterhouses, there will be battlegrounds. And this is what we're seeing playing out on the world stage today, this whole consciousness of domination and violence. We see violence and war like somehow might makes right. No, it does not. Compassion makes right. Loving kindness makes right. Collaboration, cooperation, diplomatic negotiation makes right. So the whole idea here is this mindset of consciousness of domination and violence that started 11,000 years ago toward animals has jumped to lead to all these negative impacts, from domestic violence to slavery to war. But the good news is it can all be reversed. It can be reversed by replacing the consciousness of violence and domination with ahimsa, meaning non-injury, with loving kindness, with collaboration and cooperation. And then we can truly make planet Earth the paradise it is intended to be. So the idea of going from information to inspiration to transformation, that is why I am here on planet Earth, to be an instrument of that service.
All right. Well, that brings us to compelling reason number 10. What would that
Num-
be?
Number 10 is it's the right thing to do. So, what's right for us is right for every ecosystem on the planet and for every creature on planet Earth. So, Dr. Martin Luther King said, never, never be afraid to do what is right, especially when the well-being of a person or an animal is at stake. The punishments from society are small compared to the wounds we inflict on our soul when we look the other way. Dr. Martin Luther King also said, it's always the right time to do the right thing. So once we understand these 10 compelling reasons, then it's incumbent upon us to do the right thing. What's right for us, what's right for our animals, our loved ones, our family, our societies, our culture, the global community, what's right for our precious Mother Earth, what's right for future generations. The 10th compelling reason is to do what is right. Now, when we're talking about doing what is right, I really want to emphasize that many people think that being a vegetarian is enough, that we don't really need to go to vegan. And I think it's vitally important to understand that distinction.
Well, talk about that distinction and why it's so necessary to go vegan.
I think going from vegetarian to vegan is vitally important, and it's largely overlooked by many communities. As I mentioned, I've been a yoga teacher for 52 consecutive years, one of the first yoga teachers in this country. So happy and grateful to be a trailblazer. in this field of well-being. And sadly, there are so many yoga communities worldwide and other communities worldwide that think that being a vegetarian is enough, because the reason that yogis, for example, are vegetarians is because in our code of ethics in yoga, which is called the yamas and niyamas, which is very similar to the 10 Commandments, the first and foremost of our ethical code in yoga is ahimsa. Ahimsa means to do our best not to cause injury in our thoughts, words, and actions. So most people, yogis, hopefully, if they're teaching ahimsa, are at least vegetarians because they don't want to cause injury to the animals and practice and live ahimsa. But what they're not understanding is that dairy and eggs are two of the cruelest parts of the meat industry. So if you're being a vegetarian because of ahimsa, you would have to be a vegan. The reason is dairy is even more cruel than meat. And I want to unpack this so people can understand this clearly and make a more compassionate choice. Dairy cows are not only slaughtered after 5 years for meat, just like all the other ones, but they're tortured for 5 years first. And what I mean by that is they are brutally dehorned. They are put up on what the industry literally calls a rape rack, where they are forcefully raped to be pregnant, because you can only give milk when you're pregnant. You only lactate when you're pregnant. So they constantly impregnate them, which is very depleting to their system and unnatural and cruel. And then after these cows carry their babies, as I mentioned before, for 9 months, just like we do, and they give birth, they rip these babies away from them within hours of birth. And what I want to say about that is, if you heard, Glenn, the recordings of the sound of the anguish of both the mother cow and the baby cow being ripped apart, that sound alone would be enough to make anyone go vegan. Anyone who has a modicum of compassion or empathy, just that alone would be enough to make you go vegan. But up top of that, these cows are milked with these painful electric machines, and they are treated so horrifically. Many of them cannot even turn around in their own stall. They have to stand in their own excrement, etc. It's so cruel and unnatural. And so anyone who eats dairy is violating ahimsa in the most egregious manner possible. Now let's take off the blinders. All of you so-called yogis who are turning a deaf ear and a blind eye to this and saying that it's okay, or because Ayurveda says we should have ghee, well, you can have coconut ghee. You have a million trillion other healthy alternatives. Instead of having dairy milk, you can have hemp milk or quinoa milk or cashew milk or macadamia nut milk or rice milk or soy milk. I mean, there's so many other healthy, delicious, nutritious alternatives. There's absolutely no reason that holds water to perpetuate this cruel habit, especially if you're teaching ahimsa. So we have to walk our talk, we have to chew our talk too. And so I just want to put out a plea to all yoga teachers, all yoga practitioners, which is millions of people this day and age, to honor ahimsa, to make the ethical, kind choice. There's a quote by, I think it's Wilberforce, who said, "Once you hear, you cannot say you do not know." In other words, if you perpetuate this, it's not because you're ignorant or you don't know. It's a conscious choice. And I'd like to put out a heartfelt plea to everyone to choose ahimsa, to choose loving kindness, to choose compassion, and to put an end to this perverse, cruel practice. As Pita says, if it's not your mom, it's not your milk. In other words, rat's milk is for rats, kangaroo milk is for kangaroos, cow's milk is for cows, goat's milk is for goats, sheep milk is for sheep, and human milk is for humans. And to steal the milk through such cruel actions from another species, not only is it ethically wrong, it's terrible for our health. Everybody knows that one of the top allergens is dairy. Dairy contributes to all kinds of respiratory problems. It contributes to asthma. It contributes to acne. It contributes to high cholesterol. It contributes to everything that's bad for our health. In addition to being bad for our spiritual health and our moral health, it's bad for our human health, physical health. But the good news is it can all be reversed with these wonderful, healthy, non-dairy alternatives that are more delicious, more nutritious, and cruelty-free.
All right. Well, on that note, Angel, it's been a pleasure getting to know you. People can find you at angelyoga.com, where they will see you being more flexible than I could be in 100 lifetimes. And your book is called The Solution, Soul. And it's been a pleasure getting to know you.
Thank you, Glenn. And I would also like to thank and acknowledge you for hosting this platform. I'd like to thank and acknowledge you for interviewing all these various experts to further this movement of plant-sourced lifestyle and dietary choices that are kind. And I want to thank you. I mean, the work that you're doing to promote the furthering of this understanding and consciousness is so significant, is so valuable, is so helpful toward the evolution, both individually and collectively. So I want to thank and acknowledge you, Glenn, for hosting this very valuable platform and for giving me the opportunity to share these thoughts with your viewers.
Well, that's very sweet of you. And by the way, I wore the closest thing I have to a Hawaiian shirt in your honor. So this was the best I could do.
You did great. Aloha.
Okay, aloha. Nice to be talking with you, Angel. Bye-bye.
Namaste.